Good morning and welcome to Haywire Homestead. So it's very cloudy, chilly, damp, and just feels like fall's coming and winter is not far behind. So while I'm doing the barn chores this morning, I thought that I would talk a little bit about some of the things that we do here to prep for winter and some of the things that we're trying to do this year for winter. One of the things is going to be eliminating this coop. Now, this coop was actually a 3-hutch bunny hutch, and I mean it's worked okay. I mean, it was free, but it's very difficult to clean, and we would actually have to really augment it to make it more weatherproof. We put plastic on it the last 2 years. But we've just kind of decided that we don't really need this one, that we're going to do a little bit of rearranging in this one, so that way we can just have everybody in one coop for the winter. And then whenever I do my breeding program in the spring, I will just put the birds that I want to selectively breed inside of a chicken tractor. That will make things a lot easier for me rather than having to run from coop to coop, especially in the winter. Another thing that I do, these automatic waterers work amazing in the summer. However, in the winter, good morning. However, in the winter, they just don't work really well. They tend to really freeze up. So 2 different options that I've done in the past is, one, I take them in every single night whenever we lock the birds up in the winter, and then I bring them out fresh in the morning. However, whenever we get the extreme colds that we sometimes can get here in Ohio, they still freeze up. So a lot of times I will actually take the black rubber pans, and I will use the black rubber pans, because even if I don't take them in at night, I can just bust the water very easily out of them. And we're actually going to be, and it's really dark in here, there's nesting boxes in there we're going to take out. The birds are just sleeping in them. They're not even using them. They are laying on the floor in the bedding in the other section of the coop. So that's one of the things that we're going to be doing. We are building a house for the ducks, a shelter for the ducks. They had one when they were young, but it was a little inexpensive dog house that just started to rot and go bad. So we had to throw it away. But here is our duck house, and it's almost finished. And if you check out my son's channel, Gabe's Homestead Journey, you'll see them getting the roof ready. It's still got to have metal put on it, and the kids still have to paint it. So he's going to be doing a part 2 for that. And then you see, it'd be nice and roomy in there. Plenty of room for the ducks. I still have to figure out how I'm going to train them to go in that thing. Not really sure. All right, so back to hay. Hay is a necessity for winter for all of our animals. So there is a portion of our hay. We just baled a bunch more at my parents' house, so we have to go and pick that up as soon as the weather clears up, bring that in, get it stacked in the barn so it's ready for winter. Because with horses and goats, we use a lot of hay. We use the wasted hay that falls on the floor as bedding for the chickens, just so we multi-purpose everything and we don't waste it at all. Everything is used. And here we go in the feed room. Thank goodness we have electricity in here. I always stock up once it gets cold on feed to make sure that I don't have to run out at the last minute and get feed. I also provide sunflower seeds to the birds in the wintertime, especially in the evening, to help them keep warm overnight. I also have started stocking up on bedding. So Tractor Supply had a sale and I grabbed some there. I also keep a few extra bales of straw, especially since we have goats that will be kidding in the winter. But bedding is really important for keeping the area clean and for the chickens, as well as for the horses and the goats. So stocking up on bedding is another item that we like to make sure that we have on hand. Another thing that we're doing in preparation for winter is we're going to reduce numbers of our flock. So that means that older hens that are 3 years or better and aren't really laying as well are going to be eliminated. And then any extra roosters. I've got an extra Brahma rooster here I need to rehome. I've got a couple of game hen roosters that I need to rehome. I also have a couple of Old English game hens. I have 2 hens. One is a blue, the other is a silver duckling. And then I have a silver duckling rooster. And while they're adorable and they're sweet and I really like them, we are considering selling them just because it's one less thing that I have to fool with in the winter. And they're pets, which is just an additional cost. So since hens aren't going to lay as much in the winter due to the lack of sunlight and colder weather, I just need to keep what is enough to produce for our family, and then that way that will significantly cut my feed costs. Otherwise, I'm just feeding hens and not getting the amount of eggs to sell and help support them. So then I'm losing money over the winter. So we will be reducing some of the flock a little bit. In the large barn, we have goats, and they kid in the winter. Meat goats, typically that's when they are, they're bred to kid, typically anywhere from November to February, March. Especially when in our market, we sell, our goal, since we're newer to goats, is to sell the babies to kids for 4-H. It'll bring more money than if I send them to auction. So what we're doing here is we are putting boards down here. There was a big gap at the base of the barn wall here. So we are actually blocking that off to eliminate drafts. And then we're also going to be covering this window as well as that window with plastic to eliminate drafts, because I have these 2 very nice stalls that I use for kidding. So these will be bedded up nicely. We can shut the big barn door, and that way they'll stay nice and warm whenever whenever it's really, really cold. You don't want to have babies get frostbite or get chilled and temperature drop, and then you'll lose them. So we're working on making that whole this whole area a lot more draft free in order for us to have happy, healthy goat babies this winter. For the house, one of the preparations, besides getting the last of our garden in, which is just the sweet potatoes, we had so much rain this year. It was a very difficult garden season for us, but it was so wet we were unable to get a fall garden in, so my peas and additional carrots and everything, I really wasn't able to get in like I wanted. I do have some carrots and onions and lettuces and containers up by the house, but I wasn't able to do anything in the garden. I still have sweet potatoes to harvest, so those will be coming here soon. But is wood. We are supplementing our heat in our house with our wood burning fireplace, and we just managed this we got last year, so it's good and seasoned. It's got to be finished being split, stacked, and covered. We also managed to do a trade with one of our neighbors. We had a whole lot of extra packs of shingles that were still good, and they needed them for a wood shed that they were building, and they have a whole bunch of wood because they have a wooded property, and they are giving us a big pile of wood to help us along with making sure we have enough wood to help supplement our heat. Over in the goat pen, if you watched the video from yesterday, you saw that we built a goat feeder out of a baby crib inside of the goat shed. There's the goat shed. So that way, when the weather is quite nasty and wet, and the goats don't really want to come outside, they can still have plenty of hay inside of their goat shed. So that was another one of the preparations. Gravel. Gravel is so important because when I'm sorry, unless you live in the desert, you're going to deal with mud. And we have had a lot of it. We managed to get this in here so that way the gateway is not so muddy that I can barely struggle to get through it, and also gives the goats a nice place. They actually seem to enjoy it. They like to lay on it. They run across it, which helps to wear their hooves down. So hoof maintenance should be a lot easier this winter with the use of the gravel. And for Riley, one of our preparations is that, what are you looking at, buddy? One of our preparations is to get an electric hot wire all the way around the base of the goat paddock. I have been having to tether him because he, over there, if you see, there's stuff blocking that area. He put a hole there and he learned he could get out, and now if he's loose and free in the paddock, that's immediately what he does if I'm not in here. So I let him off every day. twice a day for about an hour to let him run, play, give him some attention and free time, and then I have to retether him while I'm not in here. So a hot wire is definitely something that we're going to have to do. No! And if you see, he already knows exactly where it is. Yesterday, I forgot to retether him, and he got loose and ran all over our private lane. Thankfully, he didn't go anywhere else. He did come home, but he wasn't wanting to come to us, which was not a good thing. So a hot wire to make sure we keep Riley where he's supposed to be, as well as allow him the free run of the paddock that makes him much happier. He's not very happy right now for having to be tied up.